Welcome to the Mind Grow Radio Storyteller Series podcast. I am your host, Stephanie Cathan, and today we are joined by Dr. Sharon Yeh, a former clinical pharmacist turned functional medicine practitioner who helps people reconnect with their body's wisdom through science-backed, soul-aligned strategies. We'll dive into the power of light, nutrition, subconscious patterns, and how to tap into our natural rhythms to thrive in a fast-paced world. Please help me welcome to the Mind Grow Studio, Dr. Sharon Yeh. Yay!
Yeah. Thank you so much, Stephanie, for having me here. It's just such an honor to be here with you and with all the listeners out there.
Thank you. I love what you're doing. I had the opportunity to connect with Sharon because we're working on a book project together, and it's really fun to dive into what she actually does, because she's not only a brilliant writer, but she is brilliant in her way that she has transformed information into beneficial health mindset strategies. It's quite amazing. And I want to talk about what made you decide, because you had like a career, you were like, what a lot of people strive to do in the world, in the medical field, and you were doing it. And then something shifted that for you. What was that?
Oh, that's such a good question to start, Stephanie. And you're right. I had quote unquote everything from the outside. Doctor of pharmacy degree. I did a residency training post my degree. I was working at my dream job as a clinical pharmacy specialist, working with a medical team. And I had everything, but underneath the white coat, there were always this feeling of misfit, or it's really, there's more for me. There's more I can do to help these patients. And that was there from day one after I graduated from pharmacy school. So it started from the very beginning. And I think it's just through, because I practiced pharmacy for about 20 years. And throughout this process, that voice, that noise going got louder and louder. But what really shifted was during my pregnancy. I think a lot of people in this health journey who change their profession probably have some sort of health struggle in their personal life. So that was when I was pregnant. I just feel like nauseated every single day, and I was taking medication. And one night, I was like, okay, I have enough of medication. I don't even know. I was a pharmacist. I should know, right? But I was like, how is this medication affecting my baby? I know it is safe to take, obviously, but I just didn't know in terms of long-term, or are there any effects that we are not even aware of? So I went down the Google rabbit hole. I'm sure many listeners have done this before. I
Guilty.
Googled,
Yes.
no, yeah, right? I Googled, what should I eat to alleviate this nausea feeling? And that changed my entire life, my career, my health journey, and everything.
What you're touching on is so profound. First of all, because you heard something. You heard that inner, it's what I call that whisper that's too loud to be ignored. You heard that, and not only did you hear it, but you honored it and you paid attention to it. And because of that, you shifted your whole entire reality around. Like, your reality is totally different now than what it was. That
Yes.
had you not listened to that voice, you would still be in that unfulfilled kind of, what is this worried feeling, all out of sync. And
Yeah.
so first, congratulations for that.
Thank
And
you.
the second thing I want to ask on top of that is when you decided to make that change, did you encounter a lot of resistance, like from coworkers or family, or was there what are you crazy? Because that's kind of what happens usually when we decide to go off the rails of what we've been doing and take a new journey somewhere else.
I just feel like that whisper was there for a long time before I actually acted on it because in my mind I was like, look, you got this really good, secure, high paying job. I get to travel like around the world, like I get to have these really nice things. And the job was good, but at the same time not fulfilling. I don't know if that coexists, but it did for me. So it really took a long time. It was like a back and forth of self conversation. Do this? No, don't do that because you're gonna lose all these. Um, but it just went on for a long time. How I really changed. It was a little bit dramatic. It was during the pandemic when there's a certain procedure that was put in place to require healthcare workers to do certain things, which that fundamentally violates my value, which is freedom and integrity. That's when I decided it's just not me to stay. It was just not me anymore. Um, so I left. I mean, I didn't consult anybody really.
I freaking love that so much. First of all, because it's so freaking brave. Most of us are not brave enough to do that, honestly. We're seeking approval from other people. We have to run it by this one or that one. And you were like, I'm just going, I'm just doing this thing because it feels right to me.
Yeah, it feels right, but more. ah, Gosh, I'm just saying. I can't believe I'm saying this. It feels more wrong if I stay.
Right.
Yeah,
So good. That was just such a nugget of goodness right there. So, what you do now, you kind of really help people reconnect with their body's wisdom because your body knows things and it was telling you things and you were listening. So, you teach people how to tap into that. Is that one of your practices that you
one.
do?
Yes, that's one of my practice, and I always, honestly, to be transparent, it's so hard for me to describe what I do exactly. Yes, I have a master degree in nutrition, functional medicine, but I just through this continue education, learning, self discovery, my own health journey, that just make what I do today.
I love what you do today. And you use science backed, soul aligned strategies. So not only is it backed by the science that you know and respect so much, but it's also aligned with the well being of that inner piece of you, the
Right.
one that talks to you, the one that whispers in your ear in a voice too loud to be ignored that we have to follow. So I want to talk about the power of light and nutrition and subconscious patterns. I see you talk about this stuff, and I'm wondering if you could just go a little bit deeper into how those things play a part in our well-being and in our health.
Yeah, of course. So I'm going to start with circadian biology. So essentially, circadian rhythm is the 24-hour rhythm everyone is familiar with, right? We see the light during the day and darkness at night. And that's why I mean it's why do is really back in science because it's based on circadian biology. Our body, our biology is influenced, and I'm going to say governed by the light we are exposed to. So look at the past thousands of years before we had light bulb, we are under sunlight. And we follow that the light and dark cycle. But now in our modern life, Stephanie, when was the last time you see sunrise and sunset and have complete darkness at night? You get to see the stars. I mean, unless that we are intentionally doing that, most people probably spend a lot of time indoors working under artificial light. Um, and that is impacting our health. And this is a biggest component. It's almost like I knew, because people know circadian rhythm in terms of jet lag. Think about when you travel time zone international. I mean, just 2 hours of time difference. What do you feel like afterwards?
I only experienced that one time, and I didn't even go international. I went to Las Vegas for a conference,
Right?
and I had never felt that kind of fatigue before in my life. And somebody said, that's jet lag. And I'm like, what in the hell is that? Because why is my body feeling like this?
Yeah, because the time difference, even just what 2 hours for you, right?
Right.
And then another example, it would be the time change, the spring forward and fall back. Everybody has been affected by that. So even just the subtle light difference, it affect our biology. And I can go even deeper to explain um, more. But
I want to just tap into this for 1 minute, because what you're saying is making sense as I'm thinking about the seasons. I live in Vermont, which is very beautiful here. I have the opportunity to see sunsets and the moon, but I don't do it enough. I don't do it as much as I could do it. But more is I'm happier in the summer.
yeah.
Winter, I tend to get more isolated. It's dark, pitch dark at like 4 o'clock. I
Mhm.
want to be in bed in my pajamas. I have them on at 4:01, and like as soon as it gets dark out, I'm ready for bed. And I'm like, it's 6 o'clock, but it feels like it's midnight. I'm sure that it's midnight. And when summer comes and we get exposed to the light more, I do feel better.
Yeah.
So that's just something that we kind of take for granted, and we think, oh, I love summer. But why do you love summer? Right? It's because you're surrounded in light more of the time. And that makes so much sense.
Right. And I'm just going to add a little bit more so everyone, understand this. So in the morning, because you mentioned sunrise, every morning when the sunrise, the sun has full spectrum of light. And around that time, sunrise time, the spectrum of light is very rich in red and orange color. So think about the last sunrise and sunset that you saw. Within that spectrum of light during that time, there is just about adequate enough of blue light. And when you go out and get exposed under the sunrise light, your body, the light comes into your eyes, and then the eyes translate that signal to your brain. In our brain, there is an area, it's called SCN in short. SCN is a master clock in our body. So we have clock genes. So after the master clock receives the light signal, then it knows Sharon is in the morning. It's time to get going, wake up, right? That's where that signal is coming from. And then after that master clock receives the signal, the master clock goes to the pituitary gland and then goes to the rest of the body. So every single cells, every single organ system has clocks. It's called peripheral clocks. They get this time of the day signal from the master clock where it gets set by the sun. So think about when we are so disconnected with the light and dark cycle, our body doesn't know what time of the day it is. And every single task in our body runs by circadian rhythm. So an example to show everybody, really simple example. Let's just talk about digestion. We have more digestive power during the day because that's when we are awake. That's when we want to fuel ourselves for energy. But at night, the digestive power reduced because at that time we will be done eating, we will be sleeping. But think about what modern life does. We don't know what time it is because it's always bright.
What day it is, what month it is.
That's why when there is a disconnection, it creates chaos. And what's chaos? It's information. And I'm sure everybody probably heard about a lot of root cause of chronic health issue is information.
Wow. So good. So that leads us into subconscious patterns, because you just talked about how our body is on this clock and it remembers, and that is not something that we actually think about. It's a subconscious thing. So can you go deeper into that and share with us some ways that we can tap into that natural rhythm?
Yeah, it's very interesting. I've worked with so many clients when I share about this circadian biology. The first response from, I can say, everybody now is, oh, it makes sense. Just like what you mentioned earlier,
Yeah.
it makes so much sense. It's almost like the forgotten truth that the whole planet Earth evolved around sun, and the sun has been there for, I don't know, billions of years, I think.
Since the beginning, right?
The beginning, right? Like, how many years is that? I don't know. Older than me for sure. um, but I know. I was like, oh wow, it's amazing when you really think about that. So when it comes to the subconscious mind, so I look at this as when a client is sitting in front of me, and a lot of them, they have all these health issues for a long time. They have this identity of, I am a sick person. And that becomes a barrier of healing. Because in the subconscious mind, they think, I'm sick, I cannot be healed, or I cannot restore health. And that pattern show up as, I know I should be eating better, but I cannot. I do not. I mean, there are a lot of layers, right, underneath this. But it's changing that subconscious identity that's going to help with the healing journey.
And a lot of people listening, or maybe not a lot, but maybe a few, might be saying, well, I can change my identity. Like, I didn't know I could do that. What do you mean? The reality is I'm sick, or the reality is I have this thing. But what you're saying is I think what you're saying, I'm translating, please correct me if I'm not correct. But the more that we embrace that identity of that illness or of that disease or of that whatever it is that has us not feeling well, the more we embrace that and the more stories that we tell of that, we're kind of creating beliefs, right? We're believing, and that creates those subconscious patterns. Is that correct?
Yes.
In your medical opinion?
Yes. In my experience, yes. Um, Let me think of an example. So for someone who has chronic, like suffering chronic health issues, let's say for 20 years, and I also want to back up, sometimes these identities are not something you created. Sometimes these are given to you by others unintentionally, right?
Right.
So a doctor might say, okay, there's you being sick. This is just the way it is. We manage your symptoms by using XYZ, and this is just the way it is for you. And then the person might accept, okay, that is going to be it for me. But that's not the intention of the doctor. To you're not going to be healed, but the brain might translate that into that language, right? Another example, more extreme, would be a doctor tell the patient there's a cancer and you only have certain amount of time to live, and the person accept that, and then the person might just
I have to touch on what you're speaking on because that very thing happened to my mother.
mm,
A doctor, I mean, she had this like bunch in her stomach, this tumor
mhm,
that they estimated weighed 41 pounds by itself.
mm,
Her skin was yellow. She was jaundiced so bad, like she would scare the little kids at the grocery store because she looked so scary. And the doctor said to me, you need to get your affairs in order. You need to call your family. You need to make these arrangements because this is happening and you've got about 8 weeks. I'm really sorry to tell you that, but that's the way that that is. My mother was like, bullshit. I am not, that is not my story.
mhm,
And this lady from this church that we went to every now and then, she would just come and she would sit for hours with my mother and they would just talk. And then suddenly my mother is like, the the tumor is getting smaller and smaller.
mhm,
She is getting better. The
mhm.
doctors couldn't explain it.
Oh,
She went on, she lived another 17 years after
wow.
that. And she started like this Clark Canal Community Association. She became the president of that. She was started sitting on all sorts of boards in the town. Like she took on the identity of not only am I going to be alive, I'm going to thrive. And she really embraced that. So what you're saying right now, I can absolutely, in my own experience,
Mm,
say that is a true thing. Like that actually happens. And I've
yeah.
also seen it the other way
Yes. Yes. So,
where people are like, you're gonna die, and that person believes, and then the well-meaning friends and family are having benefits and doing this because
yeah.
then the collective is this person is going to die and more people are joining in.
Yeah.
And to know that we have the power to actually decide if we're going to embrace this identity of this or not is something not only do we not really recognize in ourselves, but we've been kind of programmed by the world
Hmm.
to be asleep to these powers, like that we have this ability within us.
Yes, we do.
So, can you share maybe a tip or two from your own personal growth toolbox that you use to like stay on track when the identities are flying at you and you can embrace any one of them? How do you discern? Like, how do you stay grounded to choose the one that's best?
I'm going to share. This is my own example. I'm just sharing my story. Okay.
Okay.
Um, People who know me personally know that I cannot stand the word menopause or even perimenopause. I always tell my family, my close friends, yes, I understand this is a physiological transition women go through. It's normal. It's nature, right? But I just don't like the word. I don't like the pause. The word pause. I know it describes that physiologic process. But in my mind, I'm like, I'm not pausing just because my estrogen is declining.
Right?
That is identity I am assuming in my midlife. I mean, I'm 49, turning 50 next year. I'm not pausing just because my hormone is out of whack or diminishing. This is a time I'm taking the power to do what I love to do, which is show up, talking to people, show up for my clients. And it comes to your keyword deciding. Just because everybody in social media is telling you you're in menopause, you're going to have all these symptoms, I chose to acknowledge, yes, my body is changing. And yes, I did have all these symptoms the last year, and they're all gone. And I'm choosing for myself that I'm keep going, not pausing. But
I
I also
love
want
that.
to say that I know that there are people who are experiencing these symptoms, and I'm not dismissing those. So I just want to put it out there because it is very real. Those symptoms are very, very real from these hormone imbalances during this period of time. But that's just an example, my own example of awareness and identity that I get to pick for myself.
Yes, and we all get to do that. If y'all heard a big thump just now, that was my microphone falling in my lap. Because that happens sometimes, and we're not going to pause. We're going to keep going. So, Sharon, where can people go to learn more about you and what you do and tap into the brilliance that you're shining out there in the world?
The best place to find me will be Facebook or LinkedIn. So I can send you the link or just search Sharon Yeh on Facebook or LinkedIn.
So, the link to Sharon's website will be in the description of this podcast. So, please go tap into her because you'll be really glad you did. I know that when we do our author meetings and stuff, I'm always so happy to see her because her energy is just so high vibing. She brings a lot to the table. And when you have a conversation with her, you will experience that for yourself. And I am really honored that you joined us today and shared about all this stuff. Do you have, let me see, one question that I will ask, and then I'll ask you to share any last thoughts. What would you tell your younger self if you could go back to pick a Sharon, make maybe like 12-year-old Sharon?
Yeah.
What would you tell her?
So funny you ask. I actually wrote this in the book. There's some tiny one or two sentences. So to the self like 10, 12 years ago. So I'll leave the readers to that session, but I will tell my younger, like the youngest self I can think of, maybe in kindergarten, everything's is always be okay. Everything always works out. And
I love
just
that.
have that courage to
Yes, and
do
listen
it.
to that voice. Listen to that voice. That's what I'm picking up from you really strongly is that the power of that inner wisdom that is available to all of us. And we are able to tap into that. And not only tap into that, but it can greatly impact the life that we live. So
One
I
more
want
thing
to
I want to
thank you.
add. One more thing
What?
I would love to add before
Yes,
for
yes.
the readers. I'm going to come back to the light and the sun because people always ask about, okay, you talk about circadian biology, like how do I start? It's so simple. It takes a little bit effort to get used to. I encourage everyone to experience this. When you get up in the morning as close to sunrise time as possible. Get up in the morning, first thing, go outside and just enjoy that beautiful morning light because it's magical. And it's in that moment that I feel like I get to connect with Mother Earth, with the universe, with higher power. That's also another benefit besides circadian biology that I have experienced and that people have shared with me.
I love it. Thank you so very much. And be sure to keep an eye out for Sharon's new book. You'll see me in there too. It's called Unbreakable, and it will be out in the fall. So stay tuned for that. And if it's fall when you're hearing this episode, then go get your copy. And
Get your copy, yes.
be sure to tune in to Sharon and all of the goodness that she's sharing with the world. Thank you, listeners, for being here with us today. I am your host, Stephanie Cathan. You've been listening to the Mind Grow Radio Storyteller Series podcast, and we have been joined by the amazing and fabulous Sharon Yeh. Please go to her website at sharonyeh.com, find her on Facebook, connect with her on LinkedIn, and tap into who she is. You will love her energy. And until we meet again, keep shining in your brilliance. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.